We were graced with more Star Wars content on May 4th. Tales of the Empire released with 6 episodes. It's similar to what Tales of the Jedi was when that came out back in 2022. Tales of the Jedi explored the Jedi from the prequel trilogy era, while Tales of the Empire focused on characters related to the Galactic Empire. We finally received some content focused on the bad guys, or gals in this case. The 6 episodes are split into 2 arcs. The first 3 episodes focus on Morgan Elsbeth, and the other 3 follow Barriss Offee. Tales of the Empire is a quick watch. The episodes were around 15 to 17 minutes long, and ultimately I think they are enjoyable episodes that even feature appearances from other significant characters like General Grievous and Admiral Thrawn. The stories are, I would say, maybe not as great as Tales of the Jedi, and that just really comes from the characters that they decided to use to write stories around. But there's no reason to not watch these 6 episodes. And honestly, I hope we continue to get more episodes in the Star Wars Tales brand. So today, I want to give a quick review of Tales of the Empire and come to the defense in regards to some stupid criticism the show is facing. So the first story arc focuses on Morgan Elsbeth. Her arc is focused on her origin story and how she got connected with Thrawn and the Empire. In episode 1, we see the separatist assault on Dathomir. We witness the massacre of the Night Sisters through Morgan's perspective. She witnesses the deaths of many, including her mother. General Grievous kills her mother and sends droids after Morgan. Morgan's mom tells her to run just before she is cut down, and as Morgan is running away from assassin droids, Grievous can be heard in the background laughing and taunting her as he yells, "Run!" Morgan escapes but passes out after getting hurt. Then the people of the Mountain Clan come to save her. They hope their village in the mountains won't be discovered by the Separatists, and the matron does not want Morgan and the others to get involved. However, Morgan defies that request and takes some of the younger members of the clan to recover some weapons. Unfortunately, the droids attack them, and the matron's daughter is killed. The matron saves them, but abandons Morgan. Time then passes, and we see Morgan in the role of magistrate on the planet Corvus. Corvus is rich in resources that could help the Empire, and she's also promised the people of Corvus jobs and prosperity by working for the Empire. Morgan has designed a new TIE Defender fighter, but her proposal is originally rejected by a group of Imperials. However, Admiral Thrawn has taken an interest in her, so he sends his assassin Rook to attack Morgan. Now remember, he is from Rebels. So she holds her own during that fight, and it was a pretty entertaining fight to say the least, and she eventually meets Thrawn. Thrawn accepts her proposal and offers her the assistance of the Empire for her project. We fast forward in time again to the post-Empire time period, where Morgan is still the magistrate of Corvus. However, a former citizen named Nadura returns home as an ambassador for the New Republic. She tells Morgan that she needs to step down as magistrate now that the Empire has fallen. Morgan refuses to step down and allow the New Republic to take over. Morgan orders her guards to kill Nadura and her New Republic soldiers, and before she dies, Nadura was able to send off a distress signal to Bo-Katan, which of course this hints to Ahsoka eventually going to Corvus, where she will run into the Mandalorian and Grogu. So the second half of Tales of the Empire takes us on a new story focused on Barriss Offee and what becomes of her after the Clone Wars. Now remember, Barriss is serving a life sentence in prison for bombing the Jedi Temple. The fourth sister, formerly known as Lyn Rakish, offers Barriss the chance to become an Inquisitor. Barriss accepts the offer and is taken to the Inquisitor base. There, she is trained by the Grand Inquisitor. Once she completes her training, she must kill a fellow recruit for the one open spot. After winning the duel, she is accepted as an Inquisitor. She receives a helmet and meets Darth Vader. Then in the next episode, Barriss and the fourth sister are sent out on a mission to hunt down a Jedi. They question some villagers about the Jedi that's hiding. Barriss nicely asks the child for the location of that Jedi, while the fourth sister is aggressively asking the adults. The adults say they don't know anything, while the child eventually tells Barriss the truth. The fourth sister then slaughters every villager except that child. Barriss is sitting there in disbelief. They eventually find the Jedi, and the fourth sister attacks first, but she is knocked out. Barriss begins to fight the Jedi, and Barriss tries her best to have the Jedi surrender, and just as the Jedi is about to stop fighting, the fourth sister comes in for the kill. Barriss becomes upset again and turns on the fourth sister. She force pushes her off the mountain, and she decides to stop being an Inquisitor. So we fast forward a few years for that final episode, and at this point Barriss is no longer an Inquisitor. She is a healer and a teacher. A family is seeking Barriss for her assistance with taking care of their Force-sensitive child. They are being chased by the Fourth Sister. Some friends of Barriss help the family escape, and Barriss traps the Fourth Sister in a maze and tries to convince her to return to the light. The Fourth Sister becomes annoyed with Barriss and for the fact that she can't find her way out of this maze. She then accidentally stabs Barriss. She instantly feels regret and decides to carry Barriss out of the maze. The episode ends there, so we don't know if Barriss lives or dies. So the episodes are pretty straightforward. Since they are short stories essentially, there's not much filler or anything extra in between. The storytelling, in my opinion, is pretty good, and I thoroughly enjoyed both story arcs. For me, there's not much to critique. I've seen some people disagree with the fact that they chose Morgan and Barriss to be the main characters, and I do understand where these people are coming from, and I'd agree that there are arguably many other characters that are more interesting to tell stories about. However, I thought this was still fun. I think Tales could be a very important aspect of Star Wars storytelling for years to come. This show could be utilized for this kind of storytelling for the future. They can keep doing this. They could provide the origin stories for many characters and provide more stories to fill in the gaps between other movies, shows, and time periods within the entire timeline of Star Wars. And I think this is what people need to remember, that there are ways to tell stories that don't always have to feature the foundational characters of Star Wars. Yeah, I'd love to see story arcs featuring Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, and I hope they do that eventually. But again, I think it's fine that there are stories out there for smaller characters as well. I think new Star Wars fans in the future will greatly benefit from a collection of stories like this. Adding more content to fill in the gaps will allow fans to better understand Star Wars right away. I grew up during the prequel era, so we literally had 6 movies and that was it. We had to speculate what was happening during the Clone Wars and other time periods. And yes, I know the books have always been there, but let's face it, the majority of fans are familiar with what's on the screen rather than the text on paper. Here's my only complaint with the show. I do disagree with having Barriss convert back to the light. I know the struggle of choosing between light and dark is always a complex thing in Star Wars, and it's usually pretty interesting, but come on, let's give some spotlight to our Empire and Sith friends for a change and let it be a villain show. Like, it was a pretty shocking and brutal scene when the Fourth Sister slaughtered all of those villagers. Ultimately, I just would have let Barriss stay bad and let that be another tragic reminder that there are always Jedi falling to the dark side and that the only Force users allowed to exist are the ones who work for the Empire. I just think Barriss's story arc could have / should have been a little bit more impactful than Morgan's, and again, with her change of heart, that kind of ruined that. It's disappointing to see that some people have zero interest in just at least watching this once through, like just binge it one time, and it's very easy to go through because you need less than a day. I mean, if you could just cough up 90 minutes of your time, you can easily watch all 6 episodes. But then I started thinking, what if this show swapped release dates with The Acolyte? The Acolyte is the next big Star Wars project, right? That probably deserves the May 4th spotlight more than Tales. The bigger show coming out on the biggest day of the year for the franchise makes a lot of sense to me. But to me, it's not the end of the world that, this was the way things were laid out and planned. That's fine, not a big deal. I want to take a moment to come to the defense of this show, and I already did in regards to the show's overall importance to the grand scheme of things, but of course there's always more serious criticism that ends up being stupid. Of course, the show is called woke by some because the 2 main characters are women, and I've seen a good amount of that being brought up. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here laughing because we had characters show up like General Grievous, Admiral Thrawn, the Grand Inquisitor, and Darth Vader. And not only do they show up, but they're also male characters too, so you can't sit here and say, oh, it's woke because they're focusing on women and minorities, and again, who cares? Like, when does this narrative get tiring to some people? Yeah, so it's really just annoying and laughable at this point that any show in Star Wars or really in any company is considered woke trash because it features women and minorities as the main characters. I mean, this is literally, the plot for some people with everything. I mean, even Fallout. Fallout had fantastic reviews, but I remember when they first showed that trailer, people were, of course, saying, oh, this is woke propaganda because there's minorities and the main character is a female. Like, okay, whatever. Like, I'm trying not even to give it too much thought or time of day because it's so stupid. And one other thing, I actually didn't realize until days after watching the show that Jedi that Barriss and the Fourth Sister fought is a non-binary Jedi. I only learned about this through the people that bashed the show. Barriss and the Fourth Sister referred to that Jedi as they a few times. And honestly, this went over my head. I didn't hear anything about this beforehand, and I don't know, it didn't look like they were promoting or pushing the issue or anything like that. And hey, maybe it's because I went into the show looking to enjoy it and to not take the anti-woke mob approach. I mean, really, I think people are just starting a fire that doesn't need to be started. I recommend checking out Tales of the Empire because it's a fun show. Both story arcs complement each other thematically. They focus on pain, loss, and survival. The emotions are there, and I've said this a bunch of times already, but this anthology format is awesome, and it provides the franchise with opportunities to explore deeply into character arcs, events, and time periods that we may not learn more about in other situations and other projects. The Tales series is the perfect stage for characters that don't always get to be the center of attention. And don't let the outside noise affect you. It's not woke, and the non-binary Jedi does exist, but there's nothing there to get mad about. You don't have to like that that's in there, but it's silly to avoid the show and to waste so much time and energy because you want to have the belief that it's woke. Whatever. I hope we see more tales of whatever in the future, honestly. Thanks for checking out the video. Let me know your thoughts on Tales of the Empire below in the comments. A big thanks to every one of you that are subscribed to the channel, and if you're new here, go check out more content on my channel. You can also find my content on podcasting platforms. Just Google Analyze This Podcast. You can also find me on X and TikTok, X at AnalyzeThis_YT, and TikTok at AnalyzeThis54_YT. Thanks again, and take care.